Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our exciting webinar on AI revolution in international trade, the big picture. So my name is Ron Alaska, and I will be your moderator for today's session. We're thrilled to have you here. Before we begin, let's go over with a few housekeeping items to ensure a smooth experience for everyone. For all the participants, you should all remain on mute during the session to minimize background noise. And can you please confirm if you can hear me and if you can see the slides? Please type in yes in the chat box. Good morning, Lisa. Can you please type in yes in the chat box if you can hear the audio and if you can see the PowerPoint presentation? Perfect. Thank you. So for the Q&A, if you have any questions, please drop them in Q&A section. We will address them during the Q&A segment at the end. For the chat, feel free to engage in the chat, but keep it professional and relevant to the topic. The recording of this session will be replayed and uploaded to International Trade Council YouTube channel. If you have experiences any issue, please feel free to reach out to me via chat. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Cabalano Rampa, Regional Director of NADRA Global. We're honored to have him as today, sharing their insights on AI revolution in international trade, the big picture. This webinar sets the stage by exploring how AI is reshaping global trade dynamics, from smarter supply chains to real-time market analysis. We'll examine key global challenges such as regulatory fragmentation, data privacy, and ethical concerns, while also highlighting the projected $15 trillion economic boost AI could deliver by 2030. Attendees will remain insights into where to begin, whether a trade company or government trade department, by identifying practical AI application and strategic entry points to drive innovation and efficiency. Without any further ado, let's welcome Cabalano Rampa. The stage is yours. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very, very much, Ron. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this short but very innovative webinar on the AI revolution in international trade, the big picture. As Ron said, my name is Kabalana Rampa. I'm coming all the way from Gaborone, Botswana, in Africa, and I am regional director of NADRA Global Facilitators. We are basically an end-to-end global trade firm that focuses particularly on the Asia to Africa supply chain. Today, we'll be exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping global trade from supply chains to tariffs and what it means for businesses and nations. So without further ado, let's dive in. First and foremost, let's start with the definitions. So AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to systems that mimic human intelligence. In our case, we're talking about machine learning, data analytics, and automation. And for international trade, we believe this is definitely going to be a game changer because it's going to optimize supply chains. It's going to help to predict market trends. And most important, it's going to help us to automate processes. Just to give an example, last year in 2024, AI-driven logistics cut shipping delays for one of the largest shipping companies in the world, MSC, by 20%. This basically translated into a saving of billions. And just to give another example before we move on, a company called TradeLens, which is basically an AI predictive, demand predictive tool, has been helping to shift the landscape by helping huge economies predict demand of the minerals and the commodities. So why does this matter? According to the World Trade Organization, trade injects around 32 trillion US dollars annually. So any efficiency that AI brings is definitely going to contribute to growth and boost of profits. So how is AI reshaping trade specifically? Let's look at these key pillars. The first one is logistics optimization. We believe AI tools are optimizing logistics, and right now, currently in all Amazon warehouses, AI tools have cut delivery times by 30%, which is pretty huge. But taking it even back to our continent here in Africa, a lot of last mile delivery startups are now using AI routing to save time, to save fuel. And one actually came up to come and say that it's been able to save close to 25% on fuel costs in a month due to AI routing tools, which is pretty huge. Another big one is predictive maintenance. And this is for all the logistics companies that have fleets like trucks, forklifts, machinery. And these AI tools help in being able to track breakdowns or track issues even before they happen, boosting the uptime by 15%. The second one is customs efficiency. Um, AI streamlines customs, and in fact, with automated systems that are now being implemented in ports, for example, Singapore port has come out to say that its AI streamlining systems have been able to cut delays on declarations up to 50%. And for some of us who are into the trade space, we definitely know the delays that are caused at ports by declarations, by customs procedures. So AI tools that can cut these delays by 50% is definitely a welcome advantage. The next one is market adaptability. Um, these days, you're getting a lot of AI predictive tools that actually help to predict what's going to happen in the market, to predict demand, to predict shocks in the market. One particular tool to note is the IBM Watson Forecast Demand Tool, which is currently being used even in my home country, Botswana, to be able to predict the demand of diamonds. And it's been used in other countries around Africa to be able to predict critical minerals demands like cobalt, like iron phosphate, and copper. These are all minerals that go into the making of batteries for devices. So this is definitely a game changer, and it adds huge benefits to not just organizations but to countries as well. But of course, we know with huge benefits or with huge game-changing technologies like this comes challenges. But before the challenges, I just wanted to talk about the opportunity for growth, because just this year, at the beginning of this year, the World Economic Forum predicted that AI growth is gonna be able to add at least $1 trillion to the global trade economy by 2030, which is huge. Um, but just looking at it at a macro level, another company that we deal with in Kenya, which is called Trigger Foods, uses AI to connect the farmers to export markets, and this has boosted the exports by 10%. So you can imagine if all food startups or food organizations implemented these type of tools. But then, in the same breath, going on to the challenges, another big challenge we have here on the African continent is the digital divide. And this is mainly because only about 29% of Africans have fast, reliable, and unlimited internet access, which is definitely a necessity for AI adoption. So this is a huge challenge that the African continent faces and has to definitely look and challenge in tackling. The next one is job displacement, which, to be honest, is not unique to international trade. We know that AI disruption and AI automation across many industries would mean a lot of job displacements. But it really hits closer to home where, for example, we got a report coming in just last month where Durban Port, which is one of the busiest ports in Africa, said that due to its new AI automation programs, they are most likely going to cut 10% of the job workforce by 2030, which is on its own as a challenge. Another one is data privacy, where we know that AI needs a vast amount of data to be able to learn, to evolve, to become more efficient. But this definitely raises risks of data breaches and misuse in data, especially for trade deals and trade agreements. So, how then can we navigate this AI revolution? And the short answer to that is looking into the future, investing into the future, and starting to implement the future now. And that brings me to my next topic of AI adoption. Um, One of the biggest think tanks in the world, Deloitte, earlier this year made a study on AI adoption, and they've been predicting different industries' rates of adopting AI. Funny enough, they've actually predicted that the global trade space is going to be the most affected by AI adoption. And they said that by 2030, around 70% of the global trade will be using AI tools, which is definitely huge and welcome. Another big one is another big trend or in adoption is smart ports, and this is basically where a lot of ports around the world are looking into adopting systems where you get an array of AI-driven tools to be doing the tasks, both internal and external. One port that is already showing results is Rotterdam Port, where they say that with the new smart ports program, they've been able to cut costs by 30%. Another big one that's much closer to the African continent is the amalgamation of blockchain and AI in securing transparent trade contracts. In fact, the Blockchain Council has come out and said that if Nigeria, for example, is able to incorporate blockchain and AI technology, they could save close to $1 billion in fraud based on the oil contracts. So adoption of these is definitely huge and would definitely be a big saving. Um, but then with all this, there's a lot of investment that needs to be done. And as an organization, we definitely encourage governments and policymakers to be able to um, adopt these technologies, to be able to rally behind investment. Um, as one big good example is the African Development Bank, which has come out to put a figure to it and has said that Africa needs at least $10 billion in digital infrastructure investment to be able to train up to 5 million workers to stay competitive in this AI future. Having said that, just wanted to give you a few top trending technologies in AI and international trade for 2025. Um, the first one being predictive analytics, which basically uses machine learning and time series models, to predict demand, trade flows, market trends using historical data, which is already being used, and we personally think is not being used enough, but we definitely see a rise in that. Another good one is route optimization that we mentioned before. Um, with this one, we have noticed that with the evolution of AI, it's becoming cheaper and much more accessible for both small and large companies to be able to use AI tools for route optimization. And we think this is definitely the way to go because the more accessible it becomes, the more cheaper it becomes, the more easier it becomes for a lot of companies and organizations to involve trade to involve AI route optimization in their day-to-day operations. And this doesn't just cut costs for them; it also reduces carbon emissions worldwide. So this is definitely a plus. The other one is document automation. We have already mentioned um, document automation in terms of customs processes and 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 ports declaration. But besides customs process and port declarations, there's so much that could be automated when it comes to documentation, when it comes to receipting, when it comes to invoicing, and this just makes the process much easier, much faster, much more efficient. But then one big one that I'd like to note that actually not here is multimodal AI route optimization. And this is basically a new one where a lot of AI developers in the trade and global logistics space are working on making programs and AI tools that can assist in multimodal orders and shipments. And as we all know in the trade space, multimodal fulfillment is usually one of the hardest where you have to maybe fulfill um, consignments via air, sea, road, rail, off-road, all at the same time. It usually gets complex and laborious and very costly. So these AI tools are basically being designed to be able to cut out the complexities, make things faster, make things much more efficient, make things much more easier to do. So this is definitely a welcome plus. So why are these technologies trending? The first one right here is the tariff pressures. We all know that all countries right now are under a lot of tariff pressures. So AI is playing its part to be able to alleviate these pressures. But then market growth is also another big one, where um, these tools are assisting in market growth year on year, not just for trade companies, but for the economy as a whole. But also a big one for a lot of economies and a lot of countries. Um, these tools are helping countries to find new markets for the existing products, which before the advent of AI tools and technology would take quite a while to find these new markets. But now with these developing trends and technologies, it's becoming much easier, much faster, and less costly. Another big one is sustainability goals, where the World Economic Forum also came out and said that with the event of AI tools, particularly the one I mentioned of AI route optimization, they see a decrease of maybe up to 22% of carbon emissions by 2030, which is huge. So, just in summary, we see the big picture or the big potential of AI being able to optimize supply chains, streamline customs, predict markets, um, cut out on emissions, and be able to contribute to our our zero carbon emission goals. But a big one is the potential that AI brings for the global economy. Um, and going back to stats that was given by the World Economic Forum at the beginning of the year, they said that if Africa is able to address its digital divide, it stands to gain an extra 100 billion by 2030, just because of the potential of AI trade tools. So this is definitely a huge thing for us, and we encourage all traders, we encourage organizations, we encourage policymakers to be able to make this the forefront of the policies, of the strategies, and be able to push AI tools and be adopters and game changers of this new technology. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ron. Any questions?
All right. So thank you for that, Mr. Rampe. Before we jump into the Q&A, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Adam FTD. It's a powerful platform designed to help businesses and individuals streamline their workflow and enhance productivity. So whether you're looking for advanced data management solutions, seamless integration, or innovative digital tools, Adam FTD have you covered. So to learn more, visit adamftd.com and discover how it can transform the way you work. So let's now move on the Q&A. So I see some questions here coming in. Let me put, put the question here. The first question is, what AI application can we use to get this data to forecast? How do we access?
Thank you very much for that, Ed, for the question. There's a multiple array of AI applications that you can use. In fact, they're coming out every day. We have a few mailing lists where we try to keep track and new ones that are coming out. Some like trade lens that are being done are the more prominent ones. But we always encourage, especially traders and business owners and farmers, and to be able to try and keep up, try new ones, see what's new, because they keep on getting cheaper, they keep on getting more accessible, they keep on getting much more efficient. So I think for now, trade lens might be a good one. But then in future, I can definitely get your contacts and also put you in our mailing list to be able to share with you the latest AI technologies as they come in.
All right, perfect. So just answering that question again, I'm typing in a website here in the chat box. So you may also use use Adam FTD. It's actually a platform that was developed by International Trade Council and ICTTM that can definitely enhance your productivity and enhance your working experience when it comes to international trade. So you can also use that one. Any questions? Um, Kabalana, she's asking, what is the name of the AI solution? Is it Trade Lens?
Yes, it's trade lens. It's actually a company. The company is the one that has that AI solution. So it's called Trade Lens, just without an E at the end. So TradeLens.
Okay.
Um, and as I said, after the webinar, I'm happy to even share the other ones that we have, the other ones that are in our mailing list, so that you guys can go through them and see which is perfect for you.
Perfect. And please feel free to type in your email address, Mr. Cabalano, in the chat box, email address, so that if you would like to contact your also your LinkedIn address, if you have a LinkedIn, please feel free to type that in. Any more questions? Please type in your question in the chat box. Okay, that's his email address. And while we are waiting for questions, sir, anything more you would like to add about the presentation or anything you would like to discuss?
Um, I think just in closing, we really need to first and foremost, because what's going on is that there's quite a lot of AI tools and applications that are popping up every day. But I think a good starting point is always looking at our immediate vicinities, our immediate communities, and seeing what problems are there and working up solutions from those problems. That's usually one of the most effective ways of doing it. We've seen in the advent of, for example, you're having a chat GPT and then a DeepSeek and then Manus AI, and all these are AI assistants. But then just this morning, I was listening to the news where a community in Africa, in a rural community in Africa, where they had a shortage of teachers, were able to start building an AI tool, mainly to become like an AI tutor of various subjects. So this is a problem they had locally in the community, and they started from there and focused on there and built a solution around it. So I would definitely encourage anyone, especially in the trade space, as the trade space is really vast and problems are not usually just universal. Um, Start with your vicinity, start with your localization, and see what issues or problems you face on a day-to-day basis, and start looking for solutions for those with regards to AI tools.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any more questions here, I guess. Okay. All right, there's one question came in. I'm glad to be here in Air and in Africa. I am a nutritionist and public health. How can this help me and how can I be an international trader?
Thank you very much for the question, Minale. That's a brilliant question. Um, so as I mentioned in the presentation, one of the companies in Kenya, Trigger Foods, is basically using an AI tool to be able to connect the farmers that they deal with external exports, sorry, with export markets. So you don't need to be, well versed in AI. You don't need to be an experienced international trader. You just have to be willing to, address a problem in the vicinity in your area. For example, if, as you say, you're a nutritionist and you're in public health, if there's um, issues with the health sector in your community or in your country or in your sector. Um, Start from there by saying this is the problem that we face. How can we tackle this problem? What AI tools are available? And you take it from there. Um, I think that should be the first step.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Let's just wait for a minute
Um,
if there's still some
no,
questions.
no problem. And I'm always available on LinkedIn or on email if anybody wants to reach out to ask about any AI tools. They don't necessarily need to be uh, directed towards international trade tools. We do get a lot of AI applications that we know about on a daily basis. So feel free to reach out.
We have one question here, but before we proceed, I just want to remind everyone that this webinar is recorded. So if you would like to see the replay, you can check our YouTube channel, International Trade Council. It will be posted there in the next few days. Also, please expect that you will receive a certificate of appreciation for attending this webinar. So next question, how can governments and organizations prepare workers for potential job displacement caused by AI?
Thank you very much for that question, Pesci. And that's a very, very important question. Um, as I mentioned during the presentation about Durban Port, that's another question that was posed to the Durban Port authorities, as they are one of the busiest ports, if not the busiest port in Southern Africa. And one thing one of the port authorities said is that they now have to start reskilling and retraining their their staff to be able to, instead of just being, for example, instead of just being a forklift operator in the port, they now have to start being they have to start learning AI or learning how to be an AI programmer with regards to smart ports. So I think reskilling and retraining is definitely going to be a big one, although it won't solve the problem 100%. I think it's a really really big starting point, and not just in trade. I think all industries as a whole have to start reskilling and re-equipping their workforce to be able to be part of this AI adoption wave that is currently on the rise.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, I don't see any more questions here. So before we end or conclude this session, I would like to ask our speaker to give his final remarks.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you very, very much for everybody who joined us today. And I think as a globe, country to country, we as in NADRA believe that local development is one that sparks trade. So we advise everyone in the personal spaces to start from there, grow from there, and always start inward and look outward with regards to trade, with regards to technology, with regards to progress and development. Um, and always just make sure that you try to stay ahead of the curve to try to find out what's going on and stay up to date with technology. Thank you very much, Ron.
You're welcome. And that brings us to the end of our session. A huge thank you to Mr. Kabalana Rampa for sharing their expertise and to all of you for attending and engaging with us today. If you have any further questions, please feel free to connect with us or the speaker after the session. Thank you again, and we hope to see you in our future events. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks.